Investor Intelligence provides general information only. You should consider seeking independent advice to see how this information relates to your unique circumstances. Please refer to the terms and conditions available at investorintelligence.com.au for more.
Welcome to this week's episode of Investor Intelligence, your weekly podcast on all things investment, hosted by me, Jacob Kearns. Regardless of where you're at in your career or your investing journey, being able to function at your best is so important if you want to get more done or just be a happier person in general. Everyone wants more energy, better moods, and improved mental clarity, and our guest for today is going to give us his blueprint for achieving these. He's a founder of Hustle Hut Fitness and is someone who's not only studied both mental and physical well-being religiously, he's also tested everything on himself, filtering out what works and what doesn't with the aim of being the best and brightest version of himself. And today, he's going to give us his top 5 tips to show us how we can also be the best versions of ourselves as well. Welcome to Investor Intelligence, Taryn Laughlin.
Thank you, Jacob. Glad to be here.
So the first tip for today is something we all know to be good for us, and that is exercise. But I want to discuss your approach because I know it's a little bit different and it can often be surprising. The type of training you recommend, the frequency, we'll discuss that in a second. But before we get into that, can you explain why physical activity is good for us, the effect it has on the body, and why we should be doing it?
So basically, when you do exercise, it stimulates your brain in a good way. It sends a lot of blood and oxygen to your brain and around the body, so that'll help improve your mood, energy levels like that, and libido. When you do an exercise too, you become more mobile, flexible. You'll be able to become a lot stronger and do daily activities, be able to do everything a lot easier.
Okay. Everyone knows after they exercise, they feel really good after. I know I do. Like it's a more long-term effect than that, right? Like it's not just after you exercise, you feel good.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that most people do, when they do exercise, will feel good after they just finish their workout. But I would say usually from what I see and online and in person from going to gyms, that people definitely do a training style that is way too intense. So you get actually this little energy boost for a little bit, but it only lasts for about maybe an hour or two max because their training intensity is way too hard. They're training at 100% all the time, every day, which will lead to burnout and injuries. And then they'll definitely stall your progress because if you're getting burnt out, you're going to be able to train as effectively. You're going to get weaker. And if you get injured, obviously, you have to train around it, or it's an injury that you can't train at all. So there is definitely a better way to train. Training around 80%, 70 to 80%. I like to say 2 to 3 reps off your personal best, I would say, or 2 reps off failure, should I say. It's definitely the best way to train, and they'll keep you not getting overstimulated or over fatigued and not getting injured as well. And they'll also help you get stronger quicker.
Right. And so you're talking about weight training when you're saying reps, but what type of exercise is best between weight training, cardio, and what would you recommend people do of each type?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would never say to anyone to stop doing a certain exercise if they like it. Any exercise is always better than no exercise. So I just want to make that clear. But for longevity and just in general, strength training smashes every other kind of exercise by a mile. So that's like resistance training or going into the gym and lifting weights. That's what I mean by that. That's definitely the best one to do. Obviously, you can do cardio, like you can run on the treadmill, go on the bike, but if your goal is for longevity or just to lose weight, that's more of like a tool or a supplement to use on the side after strength training. So I'll definitely make strength training the main priority first.
Yeah. So explain to me, like, why is weight training so good compared to other forms of exercise like cardio?
Yep. So basically, there's been heaps of studies, especially the last 10 years or so, that have indicated that strength training is a lot better. Reasons being is that when you actually do strength training correctly, I just want to clarify that, when you do it correctly and train to about 70 to 80% out of 100, that you'll get a lot of benefits of getting better strength and quickly, build more muscle, won't overtrain, you get better energy levels, better mood, better libido, better brain power, stuff like that. You won't get injured, obviously won't as well. You actually feel a lot better during the session as well. And then afterwards, there'll be a longer extended time of actually feeling more energized and the things I just mentioned as well, not just that 1 to 2 hour period.
And how often would you suggest people do strength training or any form of exercise for that matter?
Depending on the exercise, it's different and depends what fitness level you are at. So I can't really give a certain answer on that. It's just depending on the age, gender, if you have any injuries and stuff like that. But for strength training, everyone can do that, and at any fitness level, everyone can do it. So any good PT can definitely make any person do that and make it very good for them. So they can get a lot of benefits from it. I would say for strength training, most of my clients train around 3 days a week, and you can see great benefits. You can even train 1 day a week or 2 days a week and see really good benefits as long as the programming and the training intensity is correct. People who are more advanced can train 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, but as long as you actually don't overtrain and actually have some rest and recovery, that's fine as well.
So what I'm hearing is basically like, obviously any exercise is better than no exercise, but you can still get really great benefits from 2 to 3 days a week if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of time.
Yep, exactly. So if you aren't a big fan of exercising, you don't like it, or you don't have much time, even doing 15-minute workouts, half an hour workouts a day, or like twice a week is still way better than doing nothing or basically doing a bit of cardio. You would rather do strength training if you can. But yeah, just because you can't put a full hour into a workout, it doesn't actually mean that you shouldn't just do it at all. I'll definitely recommend that people do 15-minute workouts, or even just doing like a set of 50 bodyweight squats. Like, you just get the mental benefits and get a little pump, and it gets the blood flow stimulated to your brain to get more energy and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth doing.
And how does your approach differ to maybe other personal trainers, or just what people generally think about health and fitness?
Yep. So I'd say most of the fitness industry these days, people would see people on TikTok or social media, YouTube, Instagram, or whatever, and these guys sadly most of them don't have any kind of certification, and really any knowledge. They just have really good genetics, and they'll just spit out some facts that aren't usually correct, but they'll just go for the train 100% every day, all day. Train really hard. It's either train hard or go home. And that's not the right approach. It's only probably the right approach for about 1% of the people in the world who are really advanced, who can actually handle that. My approach is anywhere from 1 to 3 days for most clients. If I'm more advanced, I'll get them on to maybe 5 days. But it's all about actually training at the right intensity. The exercise selection and order is very important as well. So you want to train the big muscles first. So that is the glutes, chest, quads, back. You always want to train those muscles first because you get the most energy at the start of the workout to train the big muscles. Then you move on to the small muscles. Usually train the compound movements. The compound movements are movements like deadlifts, bench press, barbell overhead press, squats, stuff like that. And they're the biggest bang for your buck for the exercises as well. So they train the most muscles. That's definitely the best approach to go about it. So yeah.
And I know you're big on mobility as well, moving your joints, and not just for your general movement, but also to perform better with your exercises. Can you tell us a bit about your approach to mobility?
Yep. So yeah, I am very big on mobility. So I like to do that with myself and clients and even friends, always before the workout, or even a few times throughout the day. Before the workout especially. So what it does is basically just primes your body, warms up your body, muscles and joints before you go into your workout. So I'm pretty big on a crucial warm up. You want to warm up the required muscles and joints that you're going to be using throughout your workout. So if I'm doing a full body training session like I usually do with most people, I'll target each of the joints and the muscles specifically when I target. You'll get better performance. Everything will be easier to get into position. You'll be stronger. Your muscles will be active, and it's easier to get a better mind-muscle connection so you can actually feel and engage your muscles during the exercise.
It's also really good for people who work in an office as well, right? Like good for back issues, shoulder, everything. With mobility, if you're not at the gym about to do an exercise, it's still really good after you wake up. I usually do mobility and before you go to bed as well. What advice do you have around mobility outside of the gym?
It's definitely beneficial to do it throughout the day. The more frequent, the better. So instead of doing one 20-minute or 15-minute mobility session throughout the day, you want to do maybe split that up and do maybe 5 sessions, so 3 5-minute sessions. one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one at night, just to make it easy, or any other time you can. I'll definitely say if you're sitting in an office or in a car all day or something like that, it's definitely beneficial to work your hips and back area especially. And even if you're still pretty active, if you're like a tradie or something like that and you've got a hard job and you're in the sun, even just doing it on your lunch break and doing a quick 2 minutes just to loosen up your body and prime your body for doing any kind of heavy lifts or climbing that you'll be doing.
And is that just to avoid injuries later in life, or does it have other benefits as well?
Definitely that. Even in the gym or in general, that you'll be stronger, you'll feel looser, be more mobile, be able to connect and activate your muscles better. So you just able to use your body a lot better. And especially if you play sports and you're all for performance, it will help you majorly with that.
Awesome. Anything else on exercise and mental clarity before we move on?
I'd say if you're not someone who trains over 3 or 4 days a week, I would say your programming is very crucial. I would say full body training is the best way to train to get the X benefits that I'm talking about for mental health and strength training. I would say definitely 3 days is perfect. Even 1 day, if you only can fit it in, is enough. Do the compound list first for the big muscle groups, then go down to the small muscle groups. You only need to train for no longer than an hour and do a little bit of mobility beforehand to warm up your muscles. If you can't even do that, I would definitely say, as I've said before, that 15-minute, 20-minute workouts twice a week or every day if you can. Or even if you can't do that, a body weight set of squats for like a minute or something like along those lines will be very beneficial to your health and just your productivity throughout the day.
Awesome. Our next tip is, again, something we all know to be very important to us, and that is diet. Most of us have a rough idea of what's good for us and what's bad for us, but can you explain why diet is so important and your approach when it comes to your own dieting?
Yep. So yeah, definitely everyone knows diet's important. I like to definitely eat 2 or 3 meals a day personally. That's the way I feel good. I definitely recommend for most people because most people don't actually hit enough protein throughout the day, which is protein's crucial for muscle building, recovery, and just a few other functions in the body. So I recommend definitely eating around 30 to 50 grams per meal, depending on how many meals you eat. I like to eat a lot of meats, such as chicken, beef, steak, lamb, kangaroo, fish. They have the biggest bang for your buck. They have the most nutrient dense, and they'll keep you full for the longest as well. So they'll reduce your cravings for other foods. You definitely want to add some fats in. You need fats. Proteins and fats are essential. Good fat sources would be something like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, grass-fed butter. You have some nuts.
You're someone who, like I said at the start, you've tested and figured out what foods are best for you at what times. Like, talk a bit about how you've figured that out for yourself.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. Nutrition is very individualized. So as you just said, some foods are good for everyone, and then some foods are only good for certain people. So for instance, I only eat foods that I digest well. So what I mean by that is that actually it feels good in my stomach after I eat it for the next 5 minutes, 2 hours, the next day. Also, when you're eating food, there's a lot of other things that you need to think about, which is very hard to notice. A lot of people can get intolerance in foods. So like you can get rashes and pimples on your face. You can be bloated, you can become gassy, diarrhea, inflammation in the body, even joint pain, which is very hard to identify. But once you become aware that you're getting joint pain after, so let's say, for instance, one of my clients, whenever she drinks red wine, she'll get Achilles pain. So we have to cut that out of her diet. So that's something like that.
Oh, wow.
It's actually pretty big, your nutrition on how you feel. So I'll definitely say if you can do some kind of, it's called an elimination diet. If it's actually this big of a problem for you, I definitely recommend it. You just slowly take things out of your diet and write them down as you're doing it, and write down how you feel or take notes. And then you just keep going until you find out what's actually really bad for you and what's giving you those problems that I just listed just then.
Another thing I've heard you talk about is be mindful of how you feel 5 minutes after eating something and a couple of hours after you eat something.
Yeah, definitely. So like you might feel good 5 minutes after, 10 minutes after you eat, but if you're becoming gassy or you have to go to the toilet, there's obviously something in your food that you just ate or meal that isn't tolerant, or your body just can't tolerate it. So you definitely want to be mindful, even for the next day or so. Sometimes, as I just mentioned, like 2 days later, you might get a lot of pimples. For example, if I eat a lot of chocolate, I'll get a lot of pimples around my lips. So that's something, and then that pops up 3 days later. And I've noticed that it took me about a year to figure that out while I was getting that. I don't eat much chocolate now anyway, but that would consistently happen. And I was always wondering, not always really big ones. So that's just an example of me. It could be someone gets sick. It could be a rash. It could be a certain rash on their body in a specific area every time. or even heartburn, stuff like that. So you have to definitely figure out what food is doing that to you and how you feel as well after you eat, say 5 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours, 24 hours.
That's interesting. And I know there's been a significant amount of research on the relationship between your gut and your brain.
Yep.
Can you explain how that relationship works and how that impacts your dietary choices?
So the gut is referred as the second brain these days. There's been a lot of studies on it. We actually are still figuring out so much about our gut and brain, but stress has a massive impact on our gut. The immune system, the brain and gut are heavily influenced by the immune system. So the brain and gut, especially the gut, send signals to the brain influencing the mood and cognitive function. So if you're eating the wrong foods or you're always stressed out, that will influence your mood and your gut response to when you actually eat your next food. So if you're always stressed out, it's going to give you more imbalances to foods. There'll be certain foods, no, it's going to be the same. So even if you are very tolerant to, say, let's say chicken, you eat chicken and you feel really good. After a year of being in this stressful state, or it keeps sending the same signal over and over again, you can actually become intolerant to it. So then you can actually start feeling bloated, getting inflamed, getting joint pain, and stuff I've mentioned earlier. Things to prevent with that, I'll definitely say, I wouldn't say this is good for everyone, but I'd say everyone should at least try it, is doing some kind of fasting. And benefits from that is insane. There's so many studies around that as well.
Yeah, I know that's something that's becoming really popular. How much has fasting been studied, and what are the benefits around it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of health experts I've studied personally, and it has been studied quite a lot, especially in the last, I would say, 20 years. Yeah, about 2000. It's been studied a lot, and it's actually really starting to become a thing now, especially in the last probably 5 years. Everyone's getting onto it. There's a lot of posts about it. You see it on social media everywhere. There's so many benefits to it. Big on fasting. It's so good for longevity and health. It's good for your skin and organs. I'd say the best thing I like about it personally is actually giving your gut a rest. So in today's day and age, since there's food everywhere, it's so easy to access. Our bodies aren't actually we're not used to that. So when we were hunter gatherers, we sometimes would have to fast for weeks or even months at a time. So we actually didn't get to eat. When we're just constantly eating 4 or 5 times a day, our gut's just constantly working. And that actually is a big reason why we're getting all these gut diseases. Not even just gut diseases, even dementia, Alzheimer's and cancers and stuff like that. Because if you're constantly eating sugars, like they have at all these restaurants and fast food places, all our cells basically grow from sugar and creates cancer cells as well. So basically not eating food for a long time, anywhere over 24 hours, I think will be really beneficial, or even 16 hours. Intermittent fasting, but 24 hours, once you hit autophagy, your cells basically, what that does is basically it gets rid of all the old cancer cells and creates all new cells, and will give you a massive energy boost as well, and will help you find flow state, become more productive, and you actually need less sleep off that as well when you do a big fast, which is incredible.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense to think about human history and why that makes sense for us. As you mentioned, we didn't have nearly as much access to food as we do now. So from an evolutionary point of view, it definitely makes sense. So would you recommend, as you said, it might not be good for everybody, but you recommend everyone try it and see how they feel. For someone who's just starting, would you say doing an intermittent fast for 16 hours is the best place to start?
Yeah, as I said, I definitely think everyone should try it and see how they feel and go off that. I'd say intermittent fasting is probably the beginner stage. You can even start a bit less than that. So I actually started only fasting for about 5 hours because you eat every 2-3 hours. I started at 5 hours, then went to 8, then went to 16, and then I went 24 and 36. So I just slowly and gradually increased over a few month period. I would say 16 hours is a pretty basic start though. Intermittent fasting is really good. So say if you eat a meal, like your last meal at 6 p.m., and then you don't eat till around 12 p.m. the next day, that's 16 hours right there. If you get around 8 hours sleep, you only have to be awake for about 8 hours of eating. It is hard at the start. Your body won't be used to it. So your body's going to your hunger hormone's going to keep coming up and you're going to feel hungry. But after about 20 minutes to half an hour, it will go away and you won't realize it. It might pop up a few times in that 16-hour period, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then your cravings will also reduce as well. So that will also help.
So is it more of a mental thing? You mentioned the hunger hormone, which I assume gives that feeling of being hungry, but it's sort of your mind playing tricks on you a little bit, because previously you've spoken about this and you've stated that, you're not actually hungry. It's just because we're so used to having this much food around, we're so used to eating all the time that it's almost like a trick. Our body thinks we're hungry, but we're really not.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We're actually not hungry. It's just cravings from our body. So our body's used to it. So our body wants to keep doing the exact same thing. So it's just every few hours or whenever you eat, it's just going to get hungry at the exact same time. So basically, a good analogy I have to say is if you're actually starving, what food would you eat? And then people say they're starving and then actually point out a food. So they'll say, I want pizza, I want cake, I want a schnitzel. But that's actually you choosing what you want. So a better way to put it is if you're actually starving, you would literally eat any food that you can get to. So when you're actually saying and picking a food, you're actually not hungry, it's a craving.
Right. So if you think to yourself that you're hungry and the idea of unseasoned, bland chicken breast doesn't appeal to you, probably not that hungry, right?
100%. So if you could eat like something along those lines, and if you're actually starving, you would eat it. So you're definitely right. 100%.
So going back to mental clarity, eating a good diet, exercising, or on diet specifically, I think we've covered a lot there. But to summarize, just eat good foods and try fasting, see how it goes for you.
Yeah, I definitely recommend everyone should try fasting and just see how they go. Just a lot of other benefits to it. And I'll just say that even though it's good for longevity, gut health, and your brain, if you actually really want to be productive and efficient, once you hit around that 20-hour mark, you start to get a really big boost of energy. You don't have to sleep as much. So you instead of getting 8 hours sleep, you can get 6 hours sleep and then feel better. So you can be really productive and get a lot of work done. So if you have assignments or anything like that you need to get done, it's definitely the best way to do it because you will find your flow state very easily or a lot easier than you usually do.
Awesome. Moving on to our third tip today. It's often something that's underrated. And so our third tip is sleep. And it's arguably one of the most important ones, right? So Taryn, why is sleep important and what advice do you have to enhance the quality of our sleep?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it probably is a bit underrated. Or if it's not underrated, everyone knows about it but doesn't actually take too much care for it. I would say that's because of technology these days. It's easy to stay up. We've got a lot more to do. Everyone's chasing that extra dopamine hit. Sleep's important. Evolutionary again. It's definitely an evolutionary factor here. So say, for instance, when we're hunter-gatherers again, 100,000 years ago, living in caves or whatever it was, our most vulnerable position was when we were sleeping. So we could be prey or get attacked by anything at that time. And it still seeped through to now that we need 7 to 9 hours of efficient sleep. So if we were in our vulnerable position at that time and they found a way that it's important, that's how important it is for our daily health and lives at the moment. I'd say for actually getting better sleep, I'd say the main factor is actually having a nightly routine. I'd say, yeah, that's definitely the most important one because once you actually have the same routine at night, your body actually adapts to that and your brain will start to slowly slow down and switch off. So that's something that I've struggled with the most out of these 5 is actually putting in a routine. But once you actually nail that down, it's a lot easier to go to bed at the same time. So I'll definitely say that's the main thing. Another few things is stop eating 3 hours before bed or when you want to go to sleep. If your body is still digesting food, that's saying to stay awake and it's harder to go to sleep. And especially if you're feeling full too. Everyone knows if you've been full and trying to go to sleep, it's too hard to actually fall asleep. I would also say drinking water at least an hour or 2 before bed. Exact same thing as it's going through the body, digesting as well. Another important factor is getting direct sunlight each day.
Okay, so don't drink water.
Yeah, so you don't want to drink water.
Is that what you're saying? Don't drink water an hour before?
Yeah, at least an hour before bed. So definitely don't drink water. That will help actually you get better sleep and fall asleep faster. So definitely.
It's interesting you talk about the nightly routine because everybody talks about, the morning routine, waking up at the same time, which, is definitely important. But, the nightly routine makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, definitely. So anyone who has a morning routine usually has a night routine as well. So,
yeah, it's something I used to have a lot of trouble with sleeping as well. And the biggest thing that would help that is getting up and getting sunlight into your eyes within whenever you can really, but within half an hour to an hour when you wake up, ideally right after you wake up, and it sets your circadian rhythm. And when you do go to bed and when you have that nightly routine, your body knows your brain is excreting melatonin, which is a natural chemical that helps you fall asleep. Yeah, so I think that's a really good idea. Any other advice on that one?
Yeah, I'll definitely say probably the biggest one actually, or I'll say second biggest one is actually not getting light in your face before bed, at least an hour. Even if you can do that before, like 2 hours, that's even better. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest indicator of people actually not getting quality of sleep because from your brain doesn't know the difference between the sun, a phone light, a lamp light, and TV screen, phone screen, and stuff like that. So if it's still in your face, if a phone or laptop is in your face, your brain's gonna indicate or think that it's still daytime. So it's not gonna want to shut off. So it's harder to actually fall asleep and get efficient sleep. So there are ways around that. As I said, you can dim down the lights or get different lights installed into your house. You can put your phone on focus mode or down the lowest brightness. And also you can get some eye protecting or blue light eye protecting glasses, which I wear every night. That actually definitely helps. So I definitely would say those two things can definitely help you as well. And also, if you can't do any of those, stretching or doing mobility before you go to sleep relaxes your CNS, so that's your central nervous system, which will help you get to sleep as well.
Okay, cool. So tip number 4, stress management and mindset optimization. I know you've got some really cool tips for us for this one. So what are some things you do to maintain that peak mental state?
So I'll just mention the first 3 we've already gone over. Exercise, sleep, and nutrition are very important. I'm not going to go into detail because I've already explained that, but they're very important. So the other ones I have is journaling and gratitude. Journaling, this is a non-negotiable for me. I do that every morning. It doesn't have to be long. Just writing out something, whatever's on your mind, and actually just doing it for like either 2 minutes, 10 minutes, depends how much you want to do or how long you want to do it for. Really just releases stress and basically just clears up your mind, and you can just get better mental clarity. So I'd say that's a very important one. And the way people are these days, if they're very stressed out or something like that, I'd say journaling will help people like nearly 99% of the time. They'll feel it leave their body, the stress and anxiety around that. And you can also write it out however you want. I like to do story form or dot points. You can write affirmations, or you can write about goals or things you have gratitude towards, and you'll feel a lot better instantly. Another big tip I like to do is another non-negotiable for me is meditation or breath work. I like to do this in the morning as well, before my clients or as soon as I wake up or around that time anyway. Usually actually after journaling, because it's easier to meditate after you have a clearer mind. I definitely recommend this. This is a very hard exercise to get good at, meditation. I'm sure a lot of people have tried it and just gave up, but you have to be consistent and do it nearly every day or every day for at least 5-10 minutes or somewhere around there, and just keep practicing. It took me about 4 months to get good at, and I sucked at it. But once you get good at it, you can do it in different forms and different variations of it. Basically, it will help improve your focus, your memory, creativity, which is very crucial to performance and being productive, and mental clarity as well. When you meditate, it basically gets oxygen and blood to the brain, clears out all the toxins that are built up in your brain as well, your blood flow. I'll definitely recommend trying it and just at least trying to get good at it. I'll take baby steps towards it. Even if when you're doing it, that your mind wanders and you start thinking about it and you don't actually realize you're meditating, you just bring your mind back, reset, go again. And then once you get a bit more advanced, I like to meditate with my eyes open when I'm driving my car. Driving to work every morning, I meditate for about 10 minutes. You can even do it when you're walking around in the shops or going for a walk. That's a bit more advanced, but you can get there, so you don't have to just sit there with your eyes closed as well.
Yeah, no, meditation is something I'm big on as well. There's so many studies that actually prove that it shrinks the areas of your brain that are responsible for stress and anxiety, and helps the areas of your brain that are responsible for creativity and learning. There's so much research, even today, being studied, and so much stuff coming out. Again, something that we're still learning about, but it's becoming more and more popular. So if you're someone who's heard about it, maybe tried it once or twice, my advice would be go onto Netflix. The Headspace, most people have heard of Headspace, but they actually have a short episode, maybe like 10 episodes. It's crash course on meditation, actually. So it's a really good place to start. It's free on Netflix. Just search Headspace meditation. And then if you like that, download the Headspace app. It's another great place to start. Costs a little bit of money per year, but it's so worth it for your mental clarity, for your happiness, for your well-being.
Since there's different variations of it, there's so many different ones. Personally, I like to do an energy booster one to give me energy once I wake up. You have to sit very upright and do that one as well, but there's so many different variations. You can choose one before you go to sleep as well to relax your body. So I'll just pick and choose which one you want to do and then go from there. Don't want to make it too hard for yourself, but yeah. I would say the next tip, which I use nearly every day, is little power naps. I would say people do call me a little nanny, which if you're going to get bothered by that, it shouldn't be a problem. There's nothing wrong with power naps. There's actually been studies to prove that they're actually really beneficial, but everyone has their own everyone has their own sweet spot. You need to find your own sweet spot. So a Like I wouldn't say sleeping over 90 minutes is beneficial. That's more of like a sleep because everyone's sleep cycle ends around 90 minutes. So anywhere before 90 minutes is probably beneficial for you. Personally, I like 10 to 40 minutes. That's my sweet spot. So anywhere in there, I wake up and just want to get up and go kill the rest of the day very quickly. I would also say to not jump in bed, get comfy. You want to do it on a lounge. You can do it in your car. I usually do it on my office chair, to be honest, because it's not too comfy, but I can fall asleep there. So I'm not getting in bed and getting comfortable. So because you get too comfortable, you're going to sleep for longer. You're not going to want to get out. And then if you sleep for too long, you'll actually feel worse. So that's something I would say around the power naps. But you can do them anywhere as long as you feel comfortable doing it.
Interesting.
Another one I use a lot when I'm trying to do a lot of work or be productive and efficient is actually giving my brain a break or letting my mind wander. So basically what I mean by that is like, say, for instance, I think there's studies to prove this as well, but I think the best method to be efficient and productive is do around 20 to 30 minutes of hard work. Put your phone on airplane mode or focus mode. Put a timer on for 20 to 30 minutes. Don't touch it. Do your work. Have a 5-minute break, and you can do whatever you want. You can meditate, you can journal, go for a quick walk. You can even do a bit of exercise. That's the things I like to do personally. Usually, I have a pull-up bar. I'll do some pull-ups. That gives me energy to go into my next one. Do a few things like that. I wouldn't recommend going on social media or anything, or watching a video or anything like that. You want to keep away from your phone, and then you can be more productive. It won't ruin your flow, basically. So you want to keep that flow going. So having every 5-minute break, maybe twice an hour, around that. Even, I did say as well, letting your mind wander. It's a great book on this that goes into detail called Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey. He explains it really well. I've been using his methods, and basically what you do is, because you're using your brain power and you're using so much of it, once you have a break, if you can just stare off into the distance and go with the fairies, and wherever your mind goes, you just let it go. If you do that, it actually gives you a lot of energy because your brain's just like refocusing, recentering, gaining energy back because you're not actually thinking and using brain power. So that's probably the easiest one to do. I mean, everyone can do that very easily. You're struggling to do meditating or you don't want to journal, don't know how to do it. That's probably the easiest one to do. So I definitely recommend doing that one if you can't do the others.
Yeah, awesome. All really good tips. Meditation, great one. I guess to wrap all this up and to tie it in, going back to mental clarity, being more productive or being a happier person in general, what final tips or advice or anything else you'd like to add to what we've discussed so far?
Yep. So I would say if you actually want to be as productive and efficient as possible, is definitely planning out your day or week, or if you don't want to do that and be that planned out, at least putting 1 to 3 non-negotiable goals for the week for each day. What I mean by non-negotiable is you have to do that by the end of the day. So you have to get those 1 to 3 goals done. So at least you're getting a few tasks done. Personally, I like to have the 3 main tasks that I have to get done that are non-negotiables. I usually smash them out in the morning, or if I have clients, straight after. You want to get done earlier in the day, you do something that's hard, and then you can ease off into the rest of the day. I'd say rest as well. You want to use those tips I just mentioned above, or mentioned just before, the meditation, journaling, etc., to give you extra energy throughout the day, because you're going to go through waves where you feeling very energetic, then you're going to crash a little bit, then you're going to get more energetic. So you want to use those to basically gain more energy to be more productive and efficient and have better mental clarity. Another thing is with motivation, especially with my clients, I realize, and people I just know, that they'll set unrealistic goals when they're motivated. Being motivated is just a feeling. It's never going to last. You're going to go through waves where you feel very motivated, want to smash out all goals, then you're going to go through little dips where you actually don't want to do anything. I'd say setting goals when you're unmotivated basically makes it more realistic and more achievable. So I would say if you want to plan out for your goals and what you need to get done for the day and week, planning it all out and breaking it down to small baby steps is definitely the best way, because if it's just one big goal, you're going to be too overwhelmed, or a few of them, which will just help you or basically make you just not do it. Won't even bother try, or if you try, it's too hard and you just give up. So I definitely think breaking it down into baby steps and just chasing small wins. Chasing small wins is very good. You'll chase that next dopamine hit. It's rewarding and it's fun, to be honest. That's something I do. I break it all down into small baby steps and I chase those small wins. And once you get small wins, you start building momentum and more momentum, and you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And then the baby steps get it to even bigger steps, and then it gets to a big step and then another big step. So I definitely say that would be best for most people. And that's the way I like to do it with my clients and myself. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And momentum is so important, right, to these things, as you were saying. And I think it's really good for everything we've touched on. It's a great way to sort of summarize everything and set goals for what we've just discussed. So for exercise, for diet, for sleep, and all the tips we just spoke about in terms of stress management, your journaling, meditation. Start with smaller goals, work your way up, and there's definitely some mental clarity to be had at the end of all that. And I think it's a great way just for everybody to be themselves, right? I'm a big believer that I don't think anyone can really be themselves unless you're looking after yourself in all the important aspects of life. So appreciate you coming on, Taryn, and discussing these with me and us. And I hope everybody got as much value out of this as I did.
All right, Jacob. Thanks for having me.
And I know you're a big reader too, Taryn. So any favorite books?
Yes, love my books. I would say the one I mentioned on Chris Bailey, Hyperfocused. Fastest Way, if you're really into fasting, Fastest Way by David Asprey is a really good book, really detailed, and will give you all the information you need. Joe Dispenza, he's supernatural, goes in a lot about meditation, basically just your positive thoughts and affirmations, and that's really good. And probably Limitless by Jim Quick. They're probably my 4 favorite books.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks, Taryn, for coming on. See you next time.
All right, thanks, Jacob.
If you found this episode or any of our episodes helpful, please make sure to share and leave a rating to help us reach more people on their investing journeys. And of course, subscribe to be notified when new episodes drop. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Investor Intelligence Podcast. You can find links to our other socials in the show notes, including a link to the Property Mentors weekly blog. If you're ready to get your property portfolio in shape for financial freedom, check out Luke's latest book, Property Fit. You can get yourself a copy at www.propertyfitbook.com.au.